Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to Shaman King, Episode 7. Shaman King 2021 to be specific. So we are finally getting to Johann Faust VIII, my favorite character from the original Shaman King, and hopefully my favorite character still currently. I won't go into too much detail because it'll probably talk about it in the episode, of course. But yeah, with Faust, his spirit that he uses as a shaman and just the imagery we get in this fight, easily my favorite. It's my kind of shit. um and I'm very interested to see this in the new animation style and everything, and see maybe if I can tell what is different compared to the original series, like how it was done in the manga and everything. Maybe um, we'll see. But I'm just very excited for this part. Um, you may have already noticed I changed the channel banner to what I assume is a clip from this episode showing Faust, because I had the like trailer shots of him before. Um, I when I got the picture, I was like looking for like just a. I mean, it's not really a huge spoiler to me either way, but I was looking for like a non-spoilery uh picture from like a preview or something, and I ended up finding that I didn't even realize at the time that like the episode had already been out when I made the new channel banner after I put up the final video for Infinity Train Season 2 and had to change that for Harley Quinn. So, yeah, I didn't even really notice that the episode was already out at that time. So it's like, I'm not really spoiled on anything. I know what's going to happen, or at least the main gist of it. Um, so it's not that big of a deal. It's just, and the screenshot doesn't really tell you anything either. It's just a screenshot. So, um, yeah. But that shows you how excited I was for this, how ready and waiting I was to be able to change that, to have it be a just a better picture on the channel banner and everything. Um, but yeah, I'm very excited for the stuff that's about to come, because if I remember right, this is the part where the series does truly kick off. Like the series has already really started to kind of find its way by this point. The early episodes definitely introducing us to things, but then we start the shaman fights, and it starts kind of getting into its own a little better. And now I just feel like again, if I remember right, based on the original series and everything, this is where it truly kicks off. This is where things really like go to the next level. And like even beyond just my love for the character of Faust, it's like that's exciting in and of itself. So I'm really interested to see what more they do to handle this. So yeah. Um we'll find out, I guess. So let's get this going. When the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So I had to look this up. This is one of those things that I had to look up in between recording the reaction and these afterthoughts. And I I was right. Let me show you something here. Let me show you a page, panel, whatever you want to call it, from the manga. This is when Faust is dissecting Manta in the manga. This is what it looks like. It shows it very blatantly, very openly, shows Manta sliced open. It's it's intense. I remembered that. um, Here in this version, they showed that it was happening, but they didn't actually show like that shot, which is a little disappointing, to be completely honest. But they probably, I guess, couldn't get away with it for censorship reasons and all. Um, and I also checked out the original anime from '99, and in that one, Faust just kind of like envelops his hand in Furioku, and then like kind of sticks it into Manta's chest cavity, basically like pushing it through his skin and everything. He doesn't actually break the skin or anything. So it was done completely different in the original anime. Again, censorship reasons. So really interesting comparison to make here. Obviously, this version is much more accurate, but it doesn't go all the way. Um, so just one other thing to note here before I really get into this. I thought that like maybe the original anime or something had the tone a little darker with the lighting and the colors and everything, and it really didn't. So I think that this was meant to be like kind of this kind of tone, this kind of lighting, this kind of like just have the setting the way it is. I think it was more supposed to be the frightening aspect of it was what was happening rather than the setting and whatnot itself. But at the same time, I feel like it could have been improved if it was maybe darker, if there was like a lot more shadows and everything at work. They could have definitely improved upon it, made it creepier and darker in terms of its visual presentation. Um, that's the only real negative I have about this. Everything else was great. The portrayal of Faust, I believe this is one of the original voice actors who did return. Um, so the voice acting was phenomenal, and just the emotion he put into his performance. I really enjoyed how he was using trickery in his battle, as Anna was putting it. I preferred to call it cunning. But I like how he was using it in his battle against Yo to make him deplete his Furioku faster, which in the end allowed him to win. Even though he was technically taken down by Yo, he still won because Yo depleted his Furioku while he still had some. Though that wasn't enough for him, as you saw, he still tried to get involved at the end and had to be saved by Tao Ren. um, but yeah, yeah. Um, so let's talk about Johann Faust VIII. So, as it mentioned in here, he is a descendant of the Faust that is kind of typically described as a necromancer in a lot of like lore and stories and whatnot. Um, and he at first was studying just medicine and whatnot. He was from a family of doctors. The necromancy had been long in the past, 500 years ago. He was just studying medicine, wanted to be a good doctor, and he even met his wife Eliza because of it. Um, she ended up being cured of this really terrible illness, and they opened a clinic together after getting married. They were really happy, but a robbery went wrong and she was shot and killed. He couldn't save her, and because of it, he discovered and studied necromancy in order to bring her back. Like I said in the reaction, it's a really sad motivation. It's a really sad backstory. His only goal in wanting to become Shaman King is literally to bring back his dead wife. He just wants his wife back, and it's really fucking sad. And Yo brought a valid point. Yo did bring a valid point, talking about how like how did he word it? Let me go back to that real quick, just to try and find how he worded it. No, it's before that. He's talking about how Faust is bound to the past with his obsession, but also like how overcoming death in this manner is not right, how it's not normal or anything, and how it makes him unworthy. And I think that was anger talking on Yo's part, because Yo was still very upset about what he had done to Manta, which is fair. But the thing is, it's not that different from just regular shamanism that we see in the series. Because with regular shamanism, they bring spirits back, have them imbue an object, and use them to fight in order to eventually accomplish a goal. And yeah, becoming friends with them can happen there, and does happen with plenty of them, and that's great, but at the same time, you can't deny there's a little aspect of being used in that. The only difference here is that Faust is not bringing back spirits, he's controlling the bodies. Sort of, they even made the comparison, sort of how June was controlling Li Pailong, except the difference here is that the spirit was there, it was just being controlled by her. Here, there's no spirit. He's not using anyone like that. All he's doing is moving, basically, reanimating bodies. And yeah, it's a little messed up. Of course it is. It's necromancy. It's messed up. But his main one, for one, is his wife, who I'm sure would be okay with this, at least to a point. More so than all the random strangers. But that's the only big thing about it. That's that Yo has any kind of real point with here, and that's the aspect of the fact that he is bringing back the bodies of the deceased, of just these random people in this situation, to fight for him rather than bringing back spirits. It's the thing is, I don't know, I don't see it as really that different. It's a little different and it's a little worse, but not that much so. Especially since we've already made it clear that there are a lot of shaman out there who just use their spirits. And yeah, that's not necessarily the right way to handle it. But again, it's like, this isn't that much worse than that. I think Yo was more speaking out of anger than anything, again, because of what happened to Manta. But I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Um, Either way, so Faust's updated design is fantastic. Again, I went back and checked out a little bit of the original anime and everything, checked out a little bit of the manga, just to make the comparisons here and to find out certain things. And yeah, obviously he looks like the same character, but just like with pretty much everyone, with the new updated style, with the updated animation and all, he also kind of looks slightly different. He it's an upgrade. Um, and the way he looks, the way he moves, the way he emotes is fantastic. It really works. Um, I really enjoyed the battle just for the cunning and the way they both play each other. How Faust is completely running this battle at the beginning because he's playing Yo completely, making him angry, making him deplete his Furyoku, and then Yo turns around and basically does the same thing, getting back at him. And it's basically a battle of wits. The only problem is Yo did fail so much at the beginning with it that he couldn't make a comeback. His Furyoku had been depleted so heavily, he just had no way to come back from it. And seeing as well, Yo gets so frustrated by losing also makes him more interesting because it's basically, as has been said in this episode, as Yo himself noted, it's like he didn't think he would care as much about winning or losing. But as Amita Maru pointed out, it's because of his love for his friend. Because this all really started and everything was kind of centered around what had happened to Manta here. That's what drove Yo, and that's what made Yo want to win this. That's what gave him the motivation to actually want to win, specifically. So him losing almost made him feel like he was, I guess you could say, betraying Manta, but more so just not getting that just justice for him. That's how I feel Yo was feeling here. And so because of that, it really upset him more than it normally would. But like I said, at the end, Ren came back in and made the announcement that he's Yo's next opponent. Which, yeah, of course we saw coming. He rides in on a way too pretty horse and is ready to fight basically right away. Um, so we'll get into that next time, but I'm excited now for where they're going to take this, but also a little worried going forward. Just because since they did cut that image of Manta sliced open like that out of this anime and compared to the manga, which again I understand why they would have had to, because it's pretty graphic. Um, at the same time, I'm wondering what else they might end up cutting. Um, and I'm by no means a manga purist on anything. You guys know that. I don't even read manga typically. I just don't really like it that much as a medium. But in this one situation, I will say I do actually prefer the manga. I know, shocker. But it's just because I think that showing that sells Yo's anger more. And maybe whenever the show might come to Blu-ray or something, it'll have that uncensored and it'll show that. Like this was just like the TV um airing. So sure, like the censorship because of that. Like a lot of like shows do that kind of thing where it's like censored for TV, but when it actually comes to DVD and Blu-ray, they have the uncensored versions. Like JoJo is big for that. Terraformers did that, and plenty of other shows as well. So it wouldn't be that unusual to believe that they might show that in the Blu-ray version. And I hope that's the case. I really do, because again, that image of just, again, I'll show it again here. This image of Manta just cut open like that. You can see his ribs, you can see his insides. It's such a visceral, such a intense, such a horrifying image. And again, it sells Yo's anger. It sells the situation. And it sells Faust as well. It sells Faust as for his insanity, for his scariness, for just the tone that it's overall trying to set here. So the fact that they left it out of the anime, again, even if it was for censorship, which I understand, because that's, again, very graphic, but still, the fact that they left it out does kind of slightly, at least, diminish the intensity of all of that was going on. And I just really hope that they do insert that back in for the Blu-ray release. But in the meantime, I still like that they still did it in this one compared to the original anime, where again, he just kind of put his hand inside my, I don't even know how to describe it that well. It's just like he just like went inside the flesh without actually breaking it. And it's like, okay. But I'm glad that they actually had Faust dissect him, even if we didn't see him sliced open like that. Because it sells it still much better than the original anime's version. But either way. Tell me in the comments below what you thought of this episode of Shaman King 2021, and thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.